Hey folks, this is Vint with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly check out Aetherial War Untold Adventures. This is a roguelite sci-fi fantasy RPG set in a dangerous post-apocalyptic universe created and developed by Nathan E. Doverspike. This game was actually based off of a book that he wrote, and all of the species and the locations, the different characters that you might run into, all of that can be found in the book. So I really like that he not only created a universe, but then created a game sort of based around it. Now, this is just one of two games. This is actually the little brother of another game that's going to be crowdfunding on Kickstarter in June of 2023, and that game is called Aetherial War, the card game. It's going to be much larger than what you see here. So like I said, this is the little brother. It's more of a solo adventure, and it supports, well, like I said, one player. It's for ages 12 and up, and the average play time is about 20 minutes. It comes in this nice, convenient, portable tin, so great for traveling. A quick note about the word roguelite. It's probably not important to a lot of you folks, but there's a roguelike and a roguelite. Roguelite implies progression from one game to the next. That's not the case here. This is more of a roguelike in the sense that you're trying to get from the beginning to the end of the dungeon, defeat the boss, and you win the game. You don't carry over equipment from one game to the next, so that's more of a roguelike. A roguelite would imply skill trees and other permanent progression. Anyway, well, there is achievements that you can mark off, but none of that will affect the next game. It's just more for bragging rights. Anywho, so what comes in the box? I should quickly note that the purpose of this video is not to play a full game, but just to show you what's in the box. And if you want to read more, I have a review out there that you can check out and read more about the game that way as well. My goal is just to sort of give you a visual component to everything. You're going to choose one of 4 different species. There's a human, a wyvern, a Volkoth, and a Ronar, I think. Each one of them have different stats. So the heart is vitality, the sword is attack strength, and the brain there is willpower. Willpower is like mana. It's used to power certain abilities. You're going to choose one of these 4 species, and then you're going to choose one of these different classes. And each of these classes offers something unique. They also offer stat modification. So if you pick the Thug class, in addition to the stats on your species there, you'll also get the stats listed here. It'll also tell you what equipment you start with. Equipment can be exhausted as a one-time thing to perform something useful and something not game-breaking, but just something out of the ordinary. And then you can refresh that when you move on to the next level. You can also see if you have any sort of special ability. This one here says all critical hits from this character deal 1 more damage. There's a hired gun class. There's a soldier class, an ethereal class, scientist, and tracker class. So you're going to pick a species and you're going to pick a class, and that will determine your starting stats, your loadout, and any special abilities that you might have. You'll be tracking your vitality and your willpower, any armor that you might get along the way, and your XP via this card and these cubes over here. When you reach full XP, you get to draw an item card, which again helps you break the game in order to give you that extra push. Then you've got enemy stats over here. This is how you track the stats of the enemy that you're currently fighting. You'll be reusing this with every combat encounter. There is a rule book, kind of. It's just a set of cards front and back, numbered 1 through 12, although some of these, like I said, there are achievements in this game. So if you're the kind of person that loves achievement hunting, then you can make use of these cards in the back of this quote-unquote rule book. But that's the rules there. Once you pick a species and a class, you're going to pick a dungeon to go through. You'll note that there's symbols on the top. There are 2 factions in the game, and when you choose a location, and there's 4 of them, and there's different challenge levels listed on the bottom. Once you choose one, you're going to remove all of the enemy cards of the opposing faction. So if I chose this dungeon to run through, I would use the enemies here. The skulls here I would remove from the game because they're not part of that particular scenario, I guess. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be starting here in this box, and you're going to be trying to progress through the levels in order to get to the end to level 4, defeat the boss, and you win the game. There are dots on the right side of each level. That's the tier of enemy that you'll be facing should you experience any form of combat. That's what these dots on the back of these cards represent. So here's a tier 1 enemy, a tier 2 enemy, tier 3, and so on. There's the boss, and likely for the other faction, that's what these are as well. I don't want to spoil too much, so let me just grab here's the level 1 of this faction. So this is kind of what you'll be facing there. Initiate, that's their vitality, their attack, any armor they might have, and any reward for defeating them. Again, I don't want to spoil too much if you plan to pick this up for yourself. I want the enemies to be a surprise. Suffice it to say, the enemies will get harder as you move up in tiers. Along the way, you'll not only be fighting monsters, but you'll also be encountering traps. And traps, again, I don't want to spoil too much, but typically traps give you some kind of choice, and a lot of it is just, it's a dice roll check. So if I had to make a choice here, I'd have to roll a 5. On this one, I need to roll a 3, or I can skip the encounter or skip the trap altogether, lose a willpower, and move on to the next location. But you do gain rewards based on the whole push your luck element of this. So if you want to try for that one, which is like a 1 in 3 chance, you can try and get this. If you succeed, you get this. If you fail, you have to take this. And all of the traps are like that. These are the different items that are in the game. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's like a plasma pistol, there's an energy supplement, there's an ether cannon, basic Envision visor, and so on. And like I said, these can be exhausted by flipping it over to give yourself some kind of boost. And on the normal difficulty, they will refresh back to their face up side when you move from one level to the next. So let's say I get here, then I get here, then I fight an enemy here and use my item, and then I get here, and then when I move down to level 2, I get to flip that item that I used here back up. I can flip up one item with every level that I go down. So that's kind of cool that you can do that. Combat, real quick, is just a series of dice roll. You always go first unless the enemy has like a first strike ability. And what you're going to be doing is just rolling a d6, and a 1 is a miss, a 2 through 5 is a hit, and when you do a hit, you just do damage based on your combined attack value, whatever it is. So if I'm the human and I'm the tracker, that's an attack value of 3 there. So I would do 3 damage to the enemy and track it on their tracker. If I rolled a 6, on the other hand, then that is a critical hit, and I get to do +1 damage to whatever the normal attack value was. And that, for the most part, is Aetherial War Untold Adventures. Again, it's a solo dungeon crawler of sorts. I love the fact that these are all the different locations that you'll be going through. You start with like the entrance card, and then as you reveal new cards, typically you'll get to choose. Do you want to keep going and move on to the next box, the location box down here, or do you want to fight an enemy? There's some other ones. Okay, if I go left, I get to move on, right as a trap, straight as an enemy. So there is another push your luck element to this in that, you know, you can bypass enemies, but you kind of need to fight them so that you get XP, so that you can level up and get more item cards to help you defeat the bosses, because the bosses aren't playing around. Well, hopefully this gives you a quick look at Aetherial War Untold Adventures and helps you decide whether or not you want to look at it and support it for yourself. Like I said, you can get this game on the Game Crafter if you want to, or you can wait for the Bigger Brothers Kickstarter campaign. You can sort of get both there at the same time. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you all next time. Take care.